Hi, good evening. Welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. I'm looking over some of the comments, and it just prompts me to say that it's very tempting once you start to do videos and you're trying to portray real life, simple life, in a foreign country, foreign culture, of course, and you go it's very tempting to go on to a self-censor and start producing videos. Now, the operative word being producing, when actually you should be you should be showing what's real. And one of the things that is very different in this country is the sense of self-responsibility, and I know that people will be crying out when they hear this, because I'm going to refer to this and connect it in connection with children. Now, they don't use safety belts, even though they're trying to implement that now, and probably in places like Manila they are doing that. If a cop stops you in Manila, probably he's going to look at you and see if you're wearing a safety belt. Now, if you couple that idea with the fact that none of the public service vehicles, except perhaps the newish modern, well turned out coaches, the rest don't have safety belts. In fact, they sit side by side, going along the length. In the case of a jeepney, and people in jeeps don't wear safety belts. Overloading is on a page that I think has been torn out of the dictionary. It doesn't exist. We joke about this for ourselves when we drive along, especially on a Sunday. We've got a full truck and we drive along, and when we're on the road, on our dirt path, our rocky dirt path down to the main road, we will pass somebody. Well, we don't pass them actually, because we stop, and Beth and I look at each other and we smile and we say, we're in the Philippines, there's always room for one more. And that's what's happened. Now, when we drive along, and our poor little red is living evidence to this, because as we drive along with so many people in the back, I can hear it clunking down on the suspension at the back. In other words, there's no suspension left, it's all bottomed out. If I go to school in the morning with the kids for some reason, I will see 7 children to a motorcycle, a solo motorcycle. So they'll be loaded up, 4 or 5 to the rear of the rider, and then there'll be one sitting side saddle on on the gas tank. So the idea that having children on a building site is okay is totally foreign to a country where they have an organization called OSHA. And let's face it, in the UK, I'm sure that they have a similar authority that can come around and inspect and close a site if safety measures are not being implemented. That's why right now in Taliban, they're putting up what we are told is going to be a Jolly Bee. It's not just a Jolly Bee because it's 3 stories. So it's obviously going to be a lot more than a Jolly Bee. It's going to connect the old Alturas with a new Alturas, and it will go straight across between 3 buildings. But it says on there, no hard hat, no entrance. So you have to have a hard hat on. Now, figure this, and our own workers, the Superman team, who work barefoot. Now, am I going to suggest that they wear steel-capped boots? on a foot that has never known a boot in its life. It's not going to happen. And this is why we try to integrate into a society as that society exists. And it really is very difficult. It's difficult for me. When I was standing at that well, and I've got two children that have latched onto me, and I hold their hand tight and I pull them back if they get near the edge, because I still have my Western viewpoint about children being near things that are dangerous. But then when we drive along the road, not our rocky road, when we drive along the national highway, which is what we connect to when we do our 2 miles of off-road driving, we connect to the ordinary highway. And that highway leads to school. And in either direction, there are many schools which are close to that highway. Young kids that would terrify you are walking along hand in hand, or even alone. I got to tell you, it's very, very difficult to, and I still comment on it. Beth doesn't even see it because she's used to it. She walked along as a 5 or 6 year old, and she walked along with her big brother or her big sister, and they didn't run out in the road. Whereas I'm not putting this forward as a reason why it's okay, because I worry about it. It concerns me. I get stressed just looking at little kids just walking along the road, and there are the insane white van drivers who actually thunder along that road, just thinking that sounding their horn is enough. It's one of the aspects of danger. It's one of the aspects of living in the Philippines which requires the most adjustments. Now, if I go to Tagbilaran, I really do everything in my power to get everything that we need to do sewn up, attended to, done deal, and on our way, so that we time it so that if we have to travel in the dark, it's only up our rocky road. Now, you might think that out of the two, travelling along the national highway would be the more safe. It's not, because of the fact, as one of our subscribers in these comments, recent comments said, one of the things you have to get used to is that driving in the dark in the Philippines is a dodgy situation, because so many people drive with no backlights. Amazingly, some people drive with no lights. Now, how I keep joking to Beth and saying that Filipinos can see in the dark. They're like cats. Even before we had an outside lamp fixed outside, an outside light fitted, which was a few days ago, outside Nanai's house by the kitchen, so that it lights the way when we go down from our house, down a few steps, down to Nanai's house to have dinner. And Beth would do that without a flashlight. I would be stumbling along like a blind man if I didn't have a flashlight. I'd be tentatively putting one foot in front of the other. I couldn't do it. But Beth does it so easily, and any of the children do it easily too. When Mr. and Mrs. O or possibly another subscriber sent a recent box, one of the boxes inside, one of the small boxes inside, contained small flashlights. What can I find one? Can I find one that shows you what they're like? Well, this is not the flashlight, okay, but they're about this big, and they're LEDs, and they're very powerful, and they're really, really effective. So this was a box full of them. Wow, I gave those out to all of the family and said, right, now you don't have to have cat's eyes, you can keep this. How long does that last? Not very long. They probably are left on. That's what Beth does every time. If she does use, when there's an absolute moonless night, and even Beth has to use a flashlight, she'll use it, and when she comes back, she'll put it onto the desk, and she'll forget to turn it off. And of course, the battery doesn't last very long, and then she'll be back to doing it with the cat's eyes. So the danger thing is just, it's difficult to come to terms with. In fact, it rates an entire video. Mind you, it is pretty late, it's 1:30, and for some reason we're wide awake tonight, even though we've got an early day tomorrow, Sunday. Sometimes it happens like that. But seeing the kids at the well brings me back to my first point. I was tempted to say, Beth, before you film, get the kids away from the edge of the well. And I didn't, because I don't think that we should be censoring what you see. And in doing that, in having that policy, you are able to have a unique experience in seeing exactly how people live. And we could actually dress things up a lot, you know. We could make it so that people are not living in quite such wretched conditions. We're not doing that to sensationalize things. We're doing that because it's real. In fact, when people come to stay with us in our guest house, they eat at Nanai's house. Nanai's house is virtually unchanged for like, I don't know, 40 years. Beth paid about 4 or 5 years ago. Beth, with her job, paid for an extension of the kitchen, which is still as it is. It's a tree trunk that's holding up the roof. We plan to give Nanai another house, which we'll do like Lena's house. She says she'll be quite happy with that. But a little bit bigger because we have family get-togethers. But the point I'm trying to make is that we don't dress it up for people that come to stay. They get the real thing. And we could put on, well, we could put on a big party, couldn't we, and eat outside, and we could do all of that and send people home happy that they've had a great vacation. But we don't do that. We always say this is not a white beaches and pina colada holiday. It's a little taste of a unique culture in its natural state. That's why we go around and we don't warn anybody that we're coming. And Filipinos are amazing people in that they live as they live, and they have no pretensions, except when they start to get a lot of money. And that's usually when an OFW, an overseas Filipino worker, starts to work 2 or 3 jobs and sending most of that money home so that they can build a house. Then there's no doubt about it, they go in for a really nice house. Makes our little house look like a shed, like a garden shed. But they really do a really nice job, and the work is well done. I feel it's well done. Lots of expats will come and they'll say, I want it done this way and I want it done that way, and if it's not done like that, they'll undo it and do it again, and I respect their attention to detail. But for us right now, we show you the way that we live, and it's not paradise. Probably the most organized, well-serviced place on our little hill is our guest house. So when you come, you get running water, you get a nicely traditional but a nicely made, nicely turned out place to stay, with a bathroom and a flushing toilet. Oh my God, the thought! Our flushing toilet quit after about a week. Maybe it was too many flushes. I probably had a poop in there. Oh, but I'm flashbacking to McDonald's. Well, so much for danger in the Philippines and the fact that there's a different view of it than in the West. This is a foreigner in the Philippines. Thanks for looking. Bye for now.